Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal this Tuesday. I hope the day is going well or started well, wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. And what a day it is. How big is it? Honestly, it doesn't get much bigger than this. Arsenal versus PSG, Champions League semi-final, first leg at the Emirates in just a few hours' time. Just saying it gets those butterflies going in my stomach. What a night. Hopefully, it is going to be at the Emirates a little bit later on, where I will be heading pretty soon. I am not going to be sitting around here. I feel like I need to get up and around that stadium as early as possible to soak it all in today, just to sort of ease nerves. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to try my best to try and get this nervous tension out of me. And then up to the stadium it is. The sun is shining. The sky is blue, and Arsenal are in Champions League semi-final action. It just doesn't get much better than that. So we're going to talk about that game, obviously, in today's show. We'll look at what Mikel's been saying. We're going to look at the sort of predicted 11 of both teams, how they might shape up. Good news for Arsenal yesterday, obviously, with Mikel Merino and Ben White both taking part in training. Merino especially, that's really, really important for Arsenal. So we're going to look at that. We've got lots of other bits and pieces to get stuck into as well. So obviously it was a big day yesterday. Mikel Arteta was hosting his press conference at the Emirates after the open training session. It was lots and lots of stuff from him about how big it is and how the players feel ready. This is their chance to sort of seize their moment and write their own history and write themselves into Arsenal folklore. Whether it feels like the biggest game of his life, Mikel said it does, and you sense it. You sense the energy, enthusiasm, that it's something unique. It's probably one of the biggest games the Emirates has seen since it was built. We're full of energy, enthusiasm, and can't wait to play the game on creating an even better atmosphere than the one that was at the Emirates for the Real Madrid game. Mikel said, I told them, the fans, and I'm not exaggerating when I said, bring your boots, bring your shorts, bring your T-shirts, and let's play every ball together. We want to do something special. That place has to be something special, something that we haven't seen before. I really hope that everyone who comes to the Emirates and everybody watching and following us brings that energy with them. So there you go, everyone. Bring your boots, bring your shorts, get out there on the pitch and help them. And I'll tell you what, we put 60,000 Arsenal fans on the pitch tonight. Then I think we'd safely say that we would win that game tonight. Mikel said on whether the sort of he or the players are feeling the sort of weight of history on them going into a game of this magnitude. He says, you feel it, especially because we have fortunately a lot of people who have worked in this club for many, many years and they've never been in this position. So that tells you how unique and beautiful it is. It's the nicest competition for any European club. We've never done it, so we need to earn the right to be in that final and everything that is going to start tomorrow. I like that response there when he talks about feeling the weight of history. It's impossible to sort of get around that because Arsenal has been so bad, in this competition for too long. It's not good enough that Arsenal have not got a Champions League title. There's been opportunities over the last, certainly, from the Wenger era onwards, that team, especially the Invincibles, that sort of era, should have won the European Cup, no doubt about it. And they didn't. Arsenal's record in European football has not been good enough. They do not have enough trophies to show for the size and stature of the club. Obviously, there's been so many finals, lost so many of them since that famous night against Parma. So you can't get away from that when you're talking about Arsenal and European football. And I like the way that Mikel's not trying to shy away from that. He's saying, look, you do feel the weight of history because we've not been in this situation enough times before. But what he's saying there is, don't let that affect you. We shouldn't let that affect us. We should let it motivate us more than anything else, because we have got an unbelievable opportunity here of writing our names into history for forever to be remembered with this football club. Honestly, just saying that is getting my pulse racing. These players, they can go down in history. They'll never be forgotten if they can go on and win the next 3 games in this competition and lift that Champions League trophy. They'll never be forgotten. You go around the stadium and you look at the images now that are on the stadium. These players will be on that stadium at some point if they go on and win this competition. It has to happen. You wouldn't be able to have one of these sides of the stadiums without the team winning their first Champions League. It'll be immortalized forever. That's the opportunity that they have now. And rather than sort of shying away from that and being scared of that and feeling the weight of pressure, use that as a motivation to go on and achieve something so special that everyone will always remember. So I really like that response from Mikel on that question. On the team news, obviously, really, really good news about Mikel Merino. I do think that's really, really important. Good news that Ben White is back available as well. Mikel saying yesterday when he was asked, we know we lost Thomas Partey, unfortunately, very late in the game against Madrid, suspension. Ben White and Mikel Merino were able to train. We'll see if they're able to start tomorrow. Ricardo Calafiori is still not fit. So no Calafiori tonight. Fully expecting Merino to start. I'd be absolutely shocked if he doesn't. I think his return is so important to how Arsenal are going to set up. I would be, we've been talking about it on the show, haven't we, in the build up to the game in the last few days. What would we do if Merino wasn't fit? Who would play in that left 8 role? Would it be Zinchenko? Would it be Lewis Skelly and then make a change at left back? The fact that Merino is now there, I think we can all confidently predict what Arsenal's starting 11 will be tonight, unless there's been any sort of injury setbacks that we don't yet know of. And I think that midfield battle is so important. We saw how important it was in the first game earlier on in the season that Arsenal sort of won that midfield battle. They physically overpowered Paris, and that played a huge part in the win. And with Merino in there, with his dual winning ability, with Rice at the 6, with his the high press, the energy, the dual winning ability he has as well. If Arsenal are going to get on top of Paris Saint-Germain and really sort of start to dominate them, you feel like those two players in particular are going to be really, really important. If they're on it, then I think Arsenal got a really good chance of certainly the game going the sort of way that they want it to go later on tonight. So really, really important, I think, that Mikel Merino is fit. Mikel was speaking in the press conference about that PSG game from earlier on this season, which I do think, it's impossible to ignore that game. As much as you can say it's very, very different, PSG are a completely different team now. Arsenal are a completely different team now to the ones when they lined up against each other in October. You do have that muscle memory up here if you're an Arsenal player, and you do have that muscle memory up here if you're a PSG player. They will remember coming here and having a really difficult night, not really being able to lay a glove on Arsenal that night. A lot of those players who started that game will be starting again this evening, and it will be very, very hard for them just to completely ignore that. And for Arsenal, they know they don't have to go back very far to know that they can beat this PSG team, that they can get on top of this PSG team. So when Mikel was asked whether that game in October is relevant, he said, I think we learned from each other. It was a very important game for us because at the time we were one of the best teams in Europe and they were performing consistently. They have an excellent coach. They've been together for a while now. To put yourself into that category, that level, and say, actually, we can compete and we can beat them. I think it was good preparation for what is coming right now. And that's what I'm talking about. The fact that they know that we can beat them. So as much as people can say, oh, it's not important, I think it is important. I think it's definitely important from an Arsenal point of view and from a PSG point of view. On what he learned from the win over PSG in October, Mikel said, I loved the presence and how we went out there, our body language, the intensity, how aggressive we were. We played with real belief and determination. When you're facing big opponents, immediately you need to put the game into that context. And that's what I think Arsenal need to sort of lean back on, and how they played in that game against PSG. That was the sort of game, when I came out of it, I thought Arsenal were really, really good. I remember walking out of the stadium. I remember the show I did the next day and sort of describing how it was one of the most complete Arsenal performances against a big team that I've seen in a long, long time. It was the type of performance that we used to see Arsenal come up against when they were playing a big team. Time and time again, when we used to see Arsenal sort of physically overpowered by a better team, and it was almost like a condescending tap on the head, like, yeah, all right, little boys, you play nice football, but we're here now. We're gonna beat you comfortably. We saw that all the time with Arsenal, didn't we? But that's how I felt like Arsenal played against PSG back in October. Now, I do expect it to be different. I can't see Arsenal doing something similar tonight. PSG are a better team now. They've got better attacking threats that are going to occupy Arsenal more than they did back then. But I still do think that it has to be an important little sort of mental thing going into this game for both teams. Okay, I don't think this is too difficult naming my predicted 11 for tonight. Again, barring the fact that there's been an injury that we don't know about, which, touch wood, has not happened. I think this team pretty much picks itself now with Merino back fit. So it'll be Raya in goal, obviously. The back four will be Timber at the right back, Saliba and Kivior at centre back, Lewis Skelly at left back. Then you're going to have Rice dropping back into that number 6 role because the suspended Thomas Partey is absent. Then you have Odegaard with Merino next to him in those 2 8 roles, and then Saka, Trossard and Martinelli. I don't really see any other option for Arsenal. I know some people have been saying we've got to keep Merino up front, but I don't see that. I think I think not having Merino in that midfield and the other options that Arsenal have, I just think it will be too impactful and it will take away from the power they have in those central areas. So, and Trossard's been in really good form of late. Obviously, I think it's 4 goals in 4 Premier League games for Trossard now, so he's in a good vein of form. And we know with Trossard, when he's hot, he's hot. When he's not, he can be really, really frustrating. But when he's hot, he's on it. He scores goals, and he's in one of those spells right now. So, I think you've got to stick with Leandro Trossard for me. So I'd just be very, very surprised if we get to the stadium later and this isn't the team. So Raya, Timber, Saliba, Kivior, Lewis Skelly, Rice, Odegaard, Merino, Saka, Trossard, and Martinelli. Luis Enrique was a bit feisty in his press conference yesterday at the Emirates, with the media sort of taking a bit of a shot at the media in the way they've been sort of reporting on PSG. This was more to do with the French media rather than the English media. But again, it kind of, I thought, hinted a little bit towards unrest. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But I feel like PSG have got their backs up a little bit because of a little bit of a slump that they've had recently. You know, some poor performances, players getting a little bit criticised. They lost their first game domestically in the league at the weekend to Nice, obviously 3-1. They were kind of hanging on against Aston Villa. And there has been, for the first time this season, just a little bit of criticism coming PSG's way. And it doesn't seem like Luis Enrique has handled it or is acting very well about it. He said, no one is talking about the goals or the games that we've won. Let's just talk about our defeats. You can say everything you want. You can send everything my way, but our mindset is wonderful. The most unhappy or sad member of the squad is me. So you can just imagine how the others are doing. When he was asked to elaborate further on those words, he said, let me just specify, maybe I'm getting things wrong, but when I'm talking about all the negative climate, I'm not talking about the fans or the staff with the club, but yeah, the questions coming from the media and even the questions the journalists ask, I think it's quite negative, but maybe that's just me. So he wasn't in the best of moods. I think some of the criticism that's come PSG's way in recent days in the build up to this game has riled Enrique a little bit. Maybe they'll use that to their advantage. Maybe it'll be a bit of a put fire in their belly ahead of tonight's game. Hopefully not, but maybe it will. He was also asked about the game against Arsenal back in October, and he was doing his best to sort of act like this. You know, it doesn't really matter. He said that was 7 or 8 months ago. I saw the match again. We are a much better team today. We beat Liverpool and they won the Premier League this year. That doesn't mean anything because every single match is different. Everybody speaks out about the Premier League as it being the best league in the world. I don't know if I agree on that or not, but we are full of confidence and looking forward to playing in the semi-final. Is Arsenal the best team we have come up against? One of the best, yes, without a shadow of a doubt. Enrique, very respectful of Arsenal as well. Been linked with Arsenal a lot when he's when Arsenal's managerial vacancy has been up for grabs. He was linked when Wenger left. He was linked when Emery left. Obviously, didn't get the job on either occasion, but he's very, very respectful of Arsenal. Always said nice things about them. Very good coach, no doubt about it. Excellent coach, and he's doing brilliant things with PSG. You know, moved away from the sort of Galactico type era that they had, and now they've got these young, exciting players who have, it's going to be a real tough challenge for Arsenal. Absolutely no doubt about that tonight. So looking at the team, I think that they're going to play, and this is from sort of speaking to people and getting their opinions on a potential 11 for PSG. This is what it could look like tonight. Obviously, Donnarumma in goal, then Hakimi, Marquinhos, Pacho, and Mendes across the back four. Saka versus Mendes. That's going to be a hell of a battle. Mendes was so good against Salah in those 2 games against Liverpool, but Saka gave him a torrid time, gave PSG a torrid time in that game back in October. Hakimi, Martinelli could be really interesting. Basically, who can push each other back the furthest, isn't it? It's like, can Martinelli push Hakimi back and consistently push him back so that Hakimi can't get forward like he likes to do and be a real threat for PSG when they move forward? Or will Hakimi constantly be bombing down there, and that's going to leave Martinelli worrying about defending a little bit too much to really do some of his attacking? So I think the fullbacks for both teams, the flanks are just so important. It's really where I see tonight's game being won or lost. The midfield looks like it'll probably be Vitinha, Neves, and Luiz for PSG, and then a little bit of doubt over whether it'll be Doué will play or maybe Barcola will come in. But I think it seems to be the expected lineup up front will be Kvaratskhelia, Dembele, and Doué. So yeah, I mean, it's a strong team, no doubt about it. You look at that front three, you look at how they play when they together, the movement they have, how fluid they are, the pace that they have, the trickery, you know, the goals that Dembele has been scoring in since the turn of the year, basically, has just been extraordinary. So it's going to be, whatever way you look at it, it's a really, really tough night. But I just look at how they set up, I look at how Arsenal set up, and you look at those wide areas and just think whoever comes out on top there is going to have a great opportunity of winning this game in the midfield battle as well. Absolutely key. Gabriel Martinelli's been speaking ahead of the game. He was in the press conference with Mikel Arteta as well. He talked about it being, the biggest game arguably of his life, and said lots of good stuff about. He was asked about his future and his contract, about how much he loves the club and all that sort of stuff. He was also asked about Arsenal signing forwards in the summer, and a lot of the talk in the build up to the summer transfer window is whether Arsenal are going to sign I don't know if you want to call it a replacement for Gabriel Martinelli, but certainly competition for Gabriel Martinelli on that left-hand side. Nico Williams obviously being heavily linked. And he was asked about that and whether that sort of bothers him or worries him. And this is what he had to say. He said, "We play for Arsenal. It's a competition every day. The club wants to have the best players in the world because it is one of the biggest in the world. And we are used to it. We're a big club. We need the biggest players. We're really happy when the big players come to the club." And I thought that was good attitude for Martinelli. And also, I just think it's, and I've said it many times, I do not want Gabriel Martinelli to go everywhere. I do think anywhere. I do think that Arsenal could certainly do with another left-sided option, but I don't necessarily think that has to be an out-and-out replacement for Martinelli. I think it just has to be competition, competition, and, and let them fight it out. If it is Nico Williams, brilliant. I don't think Nico Williams immediately walks in and becomes Arsenal starting left winger. I think he has to earn the right to do that. And I say it's just let them fight it out. Let them see who impresses the most next season, who gets that starting spot. And if it is Nico Williams, fine. If it is Martinelli, fine. Then the other one, whoever is left on the bench, has to do their best to try and sort of get past that player. That's what it's all about. That's how Arsenal are going to go to the next level. It's not just about replacing someone. It's about keeping that someone, but bringing in another player to really sort of push them and provide competition for them. So I thought it was good from Martinelli and what he had to say yesterday in his pre-match press conference. Just before we wrap things up today, moving away from tonight's game, Zubimendi, obviously in the news again. The Real Sociedad president, Joaquin Aperibe, I think that's right, has been talking about Zubimendi and the possibility of him moving in the summer. This is what he had to say. He said, "We'll see what happens. All I ask of him now is one last effort to qualify for Europe, and then whatever happens, it will happen in June. There's no point in speculating now about whether he'll be here. He's had several opportunities to leave, and he'll make the decision he wants because he'll have more options." As I've said before, Arsenal still fully confident or confident that they will get this deal done for Martin Zubimendi. If it does happen, which I have to say right now, I do expect it will happen. I think it will happen early as well. I don't think it's one that's going to run throughout the summer. I think the work that Arsenal have done on it, the position that they've put themselves in, I think this deal gets done relatively quickly in the transfer window, if it does indeed happen. So that's what's going doing the rounds on Martin Zubimendi. We've got lots of reaction from you guys to what we were discussing yesterday about Gyokeres and the goals he was scoring and whether he is the guy or not for Arsenal. I was saying yesterday that I was surprised at some of the negative reaction to Gyokeres. I'm not saying he has to be the guy, but I'm saying if he is the guy, then it's tough. It would be tough not to be kind of excited about it, because I look at what a lot of people say about the negatives of Gyokeres, and I don't really see it when I watch him. That's not to say that they're not correct. They might well be, and he might come over here and be an absolute flop. I hope that doesn't happen. But if Arsenal do sign Gyokeres, I wouldn't be sitting here thinking, they've wasted their money. I would expect him to have a good season. Lots of you have been getting in touch talking about that. We've got 1 Jesus, 2 Music, 3 Duke says, "Charles, the truth is that Sesko and Gyokeres are in the same category. Talented, on the upsurge. Who knows how high their ceiling is. Either one is a good signing. Isak is a great one, yes, but I don't think we're signing Alexander Isak. I think we all have to accept that now, unfortunately." Stylop595 says, no, not with you, Charles, on Gyokeres. Specifically on highlights to this game, defending and goalkeeping was nowhere near Premier League levels. Plus, you did not mention he missed 2 one-on-ones with the keeper. Tame finishes there. All strikers miss. He scored 4 goals in the game. You're not going to score every single chance you get. You're going to miss chances. But if you're scoring four goals in a game, it's very hard to be critical there as a striker. And I agree with you. Obviously, defending and goalkeeping is nowhere near Premier levels. But I tell you what, Premier League level has not been great this season. To be honest, I think we're over-exaggerating at times how strong the Premier League is, because this season has been a pretty poor Premier League. Lino San says, Gyokeres just looks like a different kind of monster in front of goal, a kind of player that just gets the job done. I agree. Sealord, though, says, you asked why people are on the fence with Gyokeres, and for me, the biggest thing is the standard of players he has scored against. Now, I'm not against signing him, and I think he's a good player. I just have some reservations on if he is the best choice. The key stat for me from Canon Stats on Blue Sky is that Gyokeres has only scored 5 non-penalty goals against top half teams in the Portuguese league this season. Some may say we need players who score against lower teams, but I think the point is that the bottom Portuguese teams are more Championship or League One level. So that's why I have some doubts. Good point. Good point. Well raised, C Lord. He has done well in the Champions League though this season, including a hat-trick against Manchester City. Although I think he definitely got at least one penalty in that from memory. TDTM82 says Gyokeres doesn't need pace. We have people like Martinelli and Saka. He just needs positional play, and that's what we need. Someone in the box to lash those chances. That's what he does. No brainer. I do think Gyokeres is faster than a lot of people say he is as well. Matt says, whoever we get as a striker, I'll be happy, as we need that profile regardless. I understand Gyokeres is putting up scary numbers and is a win now, ready now striker, though I would prefer Sesko as he's much younger and more raw. I personally feel Sesko would profile better in our team. I really do hope we smash our summer targets. And finally, Guna72 says, firstly, fantastic job by our women's team. Absolutely outstanding performance to get to the final. I hope it inspires the lads against PSG. Secondly, Portugal isn't the Premier League. We all know that, but it still takes a lot of talent and skill to put it in the numbers that he's been doing over the past few seasons. I want Gyokeres. He's already an experienced, fully established player who could just slot in and start scoring. Sesko is an investment for the future, really. He's not ready for what we need now, in my opinion. The same goes for Ekitike. Gyokeres, it is for me. So lots of reaction from you guys on that. Thank you very much, as always, for getting in touch. And look, that's it from me today, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you see me in and around the ground tonight or the pubs, come and say hello. I hope you enjoy yourselves. I hope you have an amazing night. Be loud, as Arteta says. Bring your boots, bring your shorts, and make this a really, really hostile night, because the players, every single one of them, are going to need us tonight from minute 1 to minute 90. What a huge night we have ahead of us. Enjoy it, everyone. See you on the other side. Take it easy. Bye-bye.